BYU fans, I'm warning you right now, you're not going to like me at the end of this segment.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Getting you ready for a showdown in Seattle, Ohio State, Washington. Lots to discuss. That is coming up later on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Jake Hatch of Locked On BYU Cougars is here. BYU travels to Boulder this week, according to our friends at FanDuel, 6.5-point favorites. Now, this is the most BYU blue shirt that I've got in my drawer. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, the reason that I began the show telling BYU fans in advance you're not going to be very happy with me, is last year we had an arrangement. It was a very beneficial arrangement for the Cougars en route to their 11-win season, where whatever I said about BYU, the opposite happened.
Yeah.
So BYU fans have clearly got a problem here. That problem is they're 6.5-point favorites. I might bet this month's salary on BYU minus 6.5. Jake? Because there is nothing about Colorado I feel good about. They do not know who their quarterback is supposed to be, or maybe they do because they went this whole back and forth thing. Don't like it whatsoever. I still think there are physicality problems, and I like BYU in the trenches far more. This game is in Boulder. Yep, that could make it tricky, but you give me quarterback certainty, you give me physicality advantage, you can still run all over this Colorado defense. I like the Cougars big in this spot. So the upset alert meter on Spencer's radar here is at like a 2, and it'd be a 1 if this game were in Provo. That is probably going to drive some BYU fans who've been with me for a while pretty crazy, and they're all probably panicking right now. Go ahead.
Well, I see where you're coming from, Spencer, and I actually think you're dead on with this. If you look at Colorado's schedule so far, they have played 2 Power 5 opponents, those being Georgia Tech and Houston. Now, in those games, they gave up 320 rushing yards to Georgia Tech, then gave up 209 yards to the Houston Cougars. Mm-hmm. That is an average of 260-plus yards per game given up. Do you know what BYU's average rushing right now through 3 games is, Spencer McLaughlin?
I should have had that stat ready to go. I'm going to guess 275.
You're 10 off, 265.7 yards per game. They are going to run this ball down the throat of the Colorado Buffaloes until they can't take it anymore. And I'm not going to lie, they absolutely ran roughshod in that Alamo Bowl game that I was at in San Antonio last December, and I fully expect them to run over Colorado at Folsom Field.
Yeah, refresh everybody's memory, Jake. What was the final score of that Colorado game?
It was very
in
one-sided.
The Alamo Bowl. Was it one? Oh, it was one-sided. One-sided. Oh, okay. And since then, which team has taken a larger step back, Colorado or BYU? Colorado, BYU.
Who's the Heisman Trophy winner? I don't think there's any argument there, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll say first-round talent at quarterback because he wasn't first-round pick at quarterback here. I struggle, aside from home field advantage, to come up with a reason why Colorado hangs with BYU in this game, because the defensive metrics, whichever one you look at, they love BYU. And you know what? Now, this is definitely the biggest test for BYU so far this season. They passed one last week that was sneaky, tough, but still not all that difficult, playing East Carolina on the road. I think East Carolina plus 6.5 was probably a really trendy spread pick for people, and BYU wound up covering that. It wasn't always easy or perfect for the Cougars, but it was good enough. And I think when you have had that as the teaser, that's like taking algebra before you go take algebra 2. You know, like if you get an A in algebra, I feel pretty good that you're going to get at least a B, probably a B plus or better when you level up here. I think Colorado's better in East Carolina. Hot take. I just look at Colorado and can't get that first game again, regardless, I'm not even railing against the quarterback situation, which I abhor, by the way, cannot stand the back and forth. And like, no, you gotta give a guy at least a third or half the season before you say, okay, we're pulling the plug, going to somebody else. Like the game and a half, I just didn't like that at all. But Georgia Tech went into Boulder week 1, and nobody knew anything about anybody at that point. Ignorance can be bliss, Jake. And guess what? Georgia Tech turned the ball over 3 times in the first quarter and still won the football game. I just can't get behind Colorado in this spot. It would be fun. It'd be fun. It'd be better for my content here on the show if I said I think BYU's on major upset alert. I can't see it. It's going to be one of my favorite bets of the week.
Well, and that's the thing about this, Spencer, is it looks like BYU should be able to handle their business just fine. There was a stat thrown out earlier this week by Greg Wrubell, who's the play-by-play voice for BYU. He does a show called Coordinator's Corner, where he has BYU's coordinators on to talk about the team. He's talking with Jay Hill, who's the defensive coordinator. Spencer, when BYU, in the 10 years that Kalani Sitake has been the head coach at BYU, when they have 0 turnovers in a game, they're 34-4. When they are +1 or better in the margin, they're 43-8. They have an elite record when they take care of the football. And I'll just say it right now, Bear Bachmeier has 0 turnovers on the season so far, and that's the reason why BYU's 3-0.
Yeah, assess what you've seen from the true freshman quarterback, because this is one of the questions that was raised about BYU coming into the year. Now all of a sudden they've cracked the top 25 with TCU, who I'll talk about them later in the week. Big game on Friday night against Arizona State. Stoked for that matchup. But, you know, when you look at the Big 12's chances of getting 2 teams into the playoff, I think even though it's a deeper league than the ACC, their chances are not as great because they have so much more depth and they don't have those dominant teams. It's important and notable that a team like BYU is inside the top 25 right now, and a loss at Colorado would sit with them in the eyes of the voters and the playoff committee for a really long time. So I think big picture, not just for BYU, but for the Cougar or for the conference, this is a really important game, and you feel how good in their true freshman quarterback.
I'm really impressed with Bear Bachmeier. He has been nothing short of pretty remarkable, considering he showed up in Provo in late June, Spencer. He had essentially 4-ish weeks to learn the playbook, went through training camp, beat out 2 guys who had more than a year in the program. Obviously knew the offense probably better than he did, but all he did was impress during training camp, earn the job, and he's been pretty flawless so far this year. He's been deadly in play action. BYU's run game's been very, very strong, as you've already talked about, and I fully expect the game plan will be run to set up the pass, and he has proven in play action to be very, very deadly, I think, especially against the likes of East Carolina this past week.
Yeah, this game is, according to our friends at FanDuel, BYU -6.5. Pretty low over-under. As much as I like BYU's defense in this spot, I think on the road, and Caden Salter is able to make some plays. I like Colorado's wide receivers. I think this hits the over, frankly, at 46.5. I'll take BYU to win this game 30-20. And Cougar fans, I'm sorry in advance for the turmoil you're now going to have to endure as a result of me putting that prediction out there into the ether.
We now know who to blame, Spencer. That's
It'll be me.
When it goes down, just turn and blame Spencer McLaughlin.
Yeah. Do you have a score prediction yet for this week?
I'm kind of sitting in the range 27-20. I think BYU, they've been very methodical with their drives, Spencer. They've not been a super high-paced offense. They've huddled a lot, making sure that they put Bear Bachmeier in positions to succeed. That lowers possessions, lowers overall plays, and obviously lowers scoring. So I've got like 27-20 BYU.
I do love that this is a late night game. 8:15 local time kickoff. That's the good stuff. The really, really good. The crowd's going to be on fire. That's good. That's a good test for your true freshman quarterback. First big-time Power 4 game, because Stanford doesn't really count. First big-time Power 4 game on the road, hostile environment. This is going to be fun. Jake Hatch, Locked On BYU. Great as always. You know what else is going to be a big test? Julian Sayin has to go to Seattle, where he's trying to break a long-running streak. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. Plus, they have all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV. You can drive with confidence through almost any season. Just like teams are looking to build confidence right now with wins this week, Mazda gives you that confidence. Like the players of your favorite team, they sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives, which applies to many of you out there. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here to help you. You get smart categorization of your spending, clear data visuals. You finally feel in control of your money, all without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. Check them out at monarchmoney.com. A showdown in Seattle and a real test for the number one team in college football. Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes and Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies are here, getting you ready for what is a monster game. Roman, I want to start with you here because Jedd Fisch is in year 2. And year 1, got to a bowl game. Year 2, off to a good start, coming off a rivalry win. I think he's still looking for that really signature win. The Michigan win last year was good. This would be many orders of magnitude greater than that. And this would be, I think, a moment where the entire Washington community would say, okay, this is our guy. We want this to be our guy. And then he'd go take the Florida job. But this would be a great moment for Jedd Fisch to have a breakthrough opportunity. If I had my own top 25, which is in the works, we're getting there. It's just been a busy week. Washington would be a top 25 team to me. So what do you see as being on the line here for the Huskies this week?
It's the leap forward that I'm glad you mentioned the Michigan game last year. When I think about like a real just boost to the program, a real shot in the arm, I think about the 2022 Michigan State game. And obviously that team wasn't very good either, but it was kind of you play a couple of non-conference games, whatever. And then, they were number 11 at the time, a top 15 team in the country comes into Husky Stadium and, we're going to just see what this team and this program is really about at that time under Kalen DeBoer. Obviously you win that game running away. And it was just the shot that everyone needed after the Jimmy Lake era. And I think that year 1 of the Jedd Fisch era was very productive, especially considering all the circumstances. But when I think of the energy and the boost, and especially like on the recruiting trail and things like that, that a win over number 1 Ohio State, because Washington is 0-4 at Husky Stadium against the number 1 team in the country, I think that it would just be the boost that everyone was looking for that was supposed to carry over from the end of the Kalen DeBoer era. And Washington is still here. Washington, to some of us, never left, but is really just back in the picture in terms of top teams in the Big Ten.
Jay, for Ohio State, it's not their first test of the season, though Arch Manning has not looked good until Sam Houston this past week. Flex on him, Arch. Flex on him. Yes, it's unbelievably cringe. But Texas's defense is legit. I still think Texas is a good team. They're just trying to figure out quarterback. So that was a very real test. I don't think that was a fluke win. It was really impressive, and Julian Sayin certainly has made some strides throwing the ball since that time. But this is their first road test of the year, and it's a legitimate one. Washington, for those who are unaware, Roman, you like this one. Washington is yet to lose a Big Ten conference game at Husky Stadium. Unbeaten against Big Ten foes there in Seattle. So, Jay, I think this is another opportunity. Well, Roman, we'll get back.
Give me 2 seconds here.
Because
you make the Jedd Fisch comment. You're so proud of your little factoid.
I am.
That's why Washington hasn't lost a home game since 2021.
Yeah, but the Big Ten thing is more exciting because this is a Big Ten game. Jay, what do you want to see from Ohio State this week?
Win? Can I just be that simple and not have to go with 1,000 words? Just win. Just go out there and win. Shut down the Huskies and be the first team to beat Washington in Husky Stadium since 2021. Thank you, Roman, for that little note there. I think I want to see Ohio State, honestly, continue the path that they're currently on. It is not about being the number 1 team in the country. That's a great thing to be, but Sayin's trajectory, continue to stay steady and stay poised. And if a mistake is made or when one is made, bounce back pretty quickly. The Buckeyes defense continue to be a unit that is able to slow down and contain any team. You found you had an answer for Arch Manning, and even Steve Sarkisian talked about the answer that you had for Arch after the game. Grambling couldn't do anything. Ohio Bobcats couldn't move the ball. And so Ohio State's defense must continue to be the dominant force they have been. Continue to get better and use the bye week as what it was, a time for Ohio State to rest up and improve and get better. Don't lay an egg. I don't want to watch Ohio State this weekend do what they did last year against Nebraska, where you let Dylan Raiola get a little confidence during his true freshman year. Ultimately, Ohio State won the game, but it was kind of a game where they slept, walked through the game, and they ended up finding a way to win. No, be dominant all 4 quarters, exert your will, set the tone, and remind everybody that while Ohio State was off and Miami had another win and Oklahoma looked pretty good, it's still the Buckeyes. And the Buckeyes are going to need to go to Washington and play like a team that they are.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun test for Julian Sayin in this spot because it is their first real road game of the year. You're going to have a hostile environment. It's the first of several big home games for Washington this year. They've got Illinois coming to town later this season. They've got Oregon coming to town later this season. The season ticket holders, of which my uncle is one of many out there, are certainly getting their money's worth this year. But Roman, for Washington in this game, I think if you haven't watched the Huskies play since last year, and by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but is the last team to win at Husky Stadium, is it the Jaden DeLaura-led Washington State Cougars?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I just have to be proud of myself for that sicko college football knowledge for a moment. Anyway, so for Washington in the spot, if you haven't watched the Huskies since last year, which given their really weak non-conference slate, you probably haven't. Maybe you tune into the Apple Cup for a bit, but Washington State is down compared to where they were 4 years ago when they beat Washington in Seattle. But you probably thought last year, yep, that offensive line, not good. Not good. Boy, the trench play, not there. I was perusing our friends at Pro Football Focus earlier today, and I noticed that there are some pretty stellar remarks for the Washington offensive line so far this year. Now, they have played Colorado State, UC Davis, and Washington State. Ohio State's obviously a much bigger test, but that's the number one thing that popped into my head when considering, can Washington pull an upset in this spot? My top question after seeing the Huskies play last season is, are they good enough in the trenches? Because I've seen Ohio State. I know they're good enough on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they're significantly better. Quick question for you, Spencer. This is trivia. Just you have 5 seconds to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Who started for Washington in that game at quarterback?
Dylan Morse.
Wrong.
No.
It was the first and only start of 5-star Sam Heward.
Sam Heward. Oh, no. Oh, dang it.
I thought you'd get that. That's disappointing.
Shoot.
But
I'm really upset that I didn't. I'm going to be mad the rest of the day.
Just speaking of bad trench play, that game, just horrendous. But no, Washington's offensive line has significantly taken a step forward. And yeah, you're right. They haven't had a big test like Ohio State just yet. But they also didn't look stellar last year in the non-conference play against Eastern Michigan, Weber State, and Wazoo. So I look at this group and I think Carver Willis was a tremendous acquisition from Kansas State to play left tackle, where he played right tackle over there, was an all Big 12 honorable mention. On the left side, he's been really solid, the steady veteran presence that this group needed. Drew Azzopardi was one of the lowest graded offensive linemen in the Big Ten last year at right tackle. He has taken a significant step forward. Big shout out to offensive line coach Michael Switzer for that, by the way. He's done a tremendous job working with this entire unit. And then one name who I threw at Jay over on our Locked On College crossover is true freshman offensive lineman John Mills, who started each of the team's first 3 games at left guard. He has been just an absolute mauler in the run game so far. And he's someone who at 17 years old still is 6'6", 320 pounds, and just looks ready for the Big Ten. Looks ready.
You telling me he's jumbo Ryan Williams?
That's not what I said, but
that's all I heard. That's all I heard.
They did bring him in to start, and he has done a tremendous job so far this season. And yeah, there's still questions like, hey, is this going to hold up against the elite of the elite in the Big Ten? And we're going to find out this weekend. But no matter what, this offensive line is not what it was last year, and it's going to take a big step forward this season.
Jay, give me your 30-second thoughts on Ohio State in the trenches so far.
Been pretty good. been pretty good. Offensive line is playing better early in the year than normal. A lot of that's due to the injuries Ohio State suffered last year, and Montgomery and Hinzman and Shabola got a lot of valuable playing time last year in the playoff push to win the national championship. D-line, Caden Curry, Bo Atkinson have looked pretty good. Caden McDonald's looked like a monster. There are still some other guys, C.J. Hicks, Edric Houston. The Buckeyes are still pushing to play better and more consistent early in the year.
We're going to get to a couple more key matchups. We'll talk quarterbacks. We'll get our predictions for one of the games of the week in college football. More coming right here on Locked On College Football. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season's here. FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You know what else is available? Fading Spencer's picks every week. You'd be doing incredibly well if you did that to this point. And guess what? I'm going to try again. I'm determined to make it happen. But if you don't think that I can, well, FanDuel's right there for you because, of course, they've got all the college football that you could possibly want. And going against me so far this year, it'd be a profitable endeavor. I'm hoping to change that. I really am. We'll see how it goes this week. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. They've got everything you want. Look, you've got prop bets, you have got point spreads, you've got money line, over-under point totals. It's all over there at FanDuel, at FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet up to $300 in bonus bets. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Let's talk about the quarterbacks in this game. Really fun matchup. Damon Williams has been impressive through the first 3 games. Really impressive. And Julian Sayin, Jay, still feels like there's another gear. Still feels like, he's looking for that signature moment where he arrives as a potential superstar in college football. This game presents that opportunity. I don't have any question about that because I'm not someone that's going to undersell the importance of going on the road for the first time, how hard it is to win at Husky Stadium, and the fact that Washington is a good team. I don't know that they're a great team, but they're certainly a good team. And if Julian Sayin goes out and goes for 280 and 3 touchdowns and no turnovers in this game, I think that'll turn a lot of heads across the country. Because right now, I think most people's impression of him is, he got carried by his defense in the Texas game and made a couple of throws.
That's a good way to look at it, because if you just looked at the box score and you just looked at the stats from both teams, Texas and Ohio State, you would assume that he just rolled the defense the entire time. He has been accurate, so accurate this year. Spencer and Roman, you guys know the kind of quarterback that he is and what he's been this year. This is a big step for a guy making his 4th start in college football. It's his first true road game he's played this year, and you're going out there to a place that's going to be a hostile environment. Some say, Spencer, it's the loudest stadium in the country. I didn't say that.
I don't know. I've heard conflicting reports about that.
That's what I've heard, is that Husky Stadium
conflicting reports
is louder than Austin Stadium.
There are numbers to back this up.
I don't think the data is settled on that.
But I do think, though, for Julian Sayin, that 280 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, that's all he needs to do. He doesn't need to go in there and throw for 450 or 500 yards and throw for 6 touchdowns. No, the 280 and 3 touchdowns, if that actually happens, if that's his stat line, that's a very good day. If he stays consistent and putting the ball right on the money like he has done over and over and over this year, you're going to walk out of this game and think, oh, Julian Sayin, he's a guy. And I think he's a guy, but he has to go out there and prove it in Big Ten play. Had a really great start to his career as Ohio State's QB1. I think that trend continues on Saturday.
Roman, am I the only one that when Jay said this is a guy was thinking about Drax when the Guardians find Thor in Infinity War? No, you were a dude. This is a man.
So, no, I was thinking, now here's a guy, but I do love your thought process there.
Thank you. That's right where my head went. You are a dude. This is a man. Julian Sayin can
today during the show, but it happened anyway.
Julian Sayin can become a man this weekend in Seattle. Roman, Damon Williams has sneakily been playing really good football. For those of that have been paying attention, it's me. I've been paying attention because I think more or less is kind of my job here on the show, but. This is the biggest test for him as well, and probably why he doesn't have a lot more respect or name recognition nationally, and why some people probably still think his name is Desmond when it is not. It's because, he barely played last year and he's been really good again in 3, low profile games this year. Well, here you go. If this is the guy that a lot of Washington fans hope, and I see the potential. I mean, he's twitchy. He's got a good arm. He's incredibly accurate. He does a lot of things well, and a lot of people will be watching him for the first time in their careers. This is about as tough of a test, other than the fact that it's at home, as you're going to find defensively.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things where, it's a traditional dual threat kind of thing where people are going to say, oh, well, he's a great athlete, right? Like he might legitimately be the best athlete on the field. That is how fast and how twitchy and how good he is inside the pocket, outside the pocket. You can go watch any number of games outside of the Oregon game last year where he does a tremendous job.
We're not counting that one. That doesn't.
Well, no, because of the offensive line. No,
Oh.
because of the offensive line.
Okay.
But you can truly go back and just watch him just truly magically escape sacks at so many different points in time. So people are going to look at him, because I've already seen this, and say, oh, well, he's a runner first, right? Like, no, this is a guy who can stand in the pocket. He's tremendously accurate. He completed 84% of his passes against Washington State. Like, this is a dude who is highly accurate at all points in time, at all levels of the field. He's got a 75, somewhere in that ballpark, career completion percentage. Like, he is truly like one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the country. And I think that that's something that people are going to take away from this game is, oh, this guy legitimately is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. Jedd Fisch will call him the fastest player on the team if you ever ask him about what kind of athlete he is. And when he gets in the open field, he really can show that. And I think Ohio State certainly has a lot of ways to match up very well with him. And this is where I think that if this game comes down to one possession, one of the things that can, and in my opinion, will keep this game somewhat close is Damon making off-structure plays with both his arm and his legs.
I'm really excited for this one, and I'm starting to nail down my pick in my head. So let's get to a little early Saturday selections action. Are you guys good with that? Making score predictions here. So Ohio State getting tested on the road for the first time. Washington being tested for the first time, period, this season. Now, the over-under is set at the moment, according to our friends over at FanDuel, official sportsbook sponsor here at the Locked On Network, at 52.5. I don't know about you guys. I lean towards the under. Now, I think both these quarterbacks can make some plays, but I don't think Sayin is going to hit his full potential in this spot. You are going to have a loud, and I mean loud, environment. Jury's out on whether it's loudest in the country, but you're going to have a difficult environment to be going into with a young quarterback for the first time. And then conversely, you're going up against an Ohio State defense that, man, they can just play. They can flat out play. They are well coached. They have got talent. Caleb Downs is an absolute beast. So I'd take the under if I were so inclined over at FanDuel. I'm taking Ohio State to win. I think Washington covers 8.5, though. I think we're going no field goals, 21-14. There's going to be a missed field goal in this game that is the reason somebody, Ohio State, doesn't cover. I'm going, nope, that didn't feel right. Rolling it back. Hold on. 20-14. 20-14, Ohio State wins, Washington covers. Jay?
Spencer. I agree with you with one thing, and one thing only, with your little comments there. I am going with the under of 52.5. I think that it's going to be closer to 52.5 than you have your 20-14 or 21-14, whichever number you want to choose for Ohio State. I still think this game is an Ohio State game where the defense is going to do everything they can to slow down Washington's offense, which is difficult. I have been really impressed, and more impressed than I thought I was going to be, with Damon Williams and the way he's able to move the ball, how quick his decisions are, and when he puts his foot to the ground and goes, he gets there very quickly. I got Ohio State winning 34-17. To me, in this game, and Roman, we talked a little bit about on the crossover, I think Washington's pass defense will be tested. And I think Jeremiah Smith, knowing that Denzel Boston's going to get a lot of attention and get a lot of publicity because of how good he is, I think it's going to add fuel to Jeremiah Smith's fire. And I'll make a bold prediction on this show. I think Jeremiah Smith goes for 3 touchdowns on Saturday, and Ohio State wins 34-17.
Whoa, 3 touchdowns. Roman, you going to sit there and take that?
Well, like I said to Jay on our crossover.
Oh, I
which is
know
tremendous,
what's about to happen here.
What's going to happen, Spencer? Tell me.
I know what you're going to say.
Tell me what I'm going to say.
Go ahead. You're going to mention some game from the past.
No, I wasn't actually.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No, like I said to Jay, if there is any cornerback in the country, like if you built a corner in a laboratory to try to stop Jeremiah Smith, it would look like Tacario Davis. 6'4", 200 pounds, really great in press coverage. I think that is just one of the biggest things that I'm going to be watching in this game. And he's one of the biggest reasons that I think Washington can keep this game close. He came to UW to play in this Ryan Walters scheme because of games like this. He knows he's going to play a lot of one-on-one coverage. Is it easy to stop Jeremiah Smith in one-on-one coverage? No, it's not, Spencer, since you want me to bring it up. I know Oregon tried that.
I just thought you were going to.
I really wasn't going to until you said that. Yeah, so this is on you. But I look at that matchup, and I'm so excited to see what it's going to look like because this is what Ryan Walters wants to do. He wants to trust his cornerbacks to play out on an island and try to just contain for 2-3 seconds while this 5, sometimes 6-man pressure that he's going to throw at Julian Sayin hits home. Will it? I'm curious to see that because as we have talked about, this is a very big step up in competition from Washington State, UC Davis, and Colorado State. But I think UW has everything it needs to keep this game close. I am a huge jinx, so there is absolutely no way I can take UW to win in this stamp because I will jinx it if that happens. So with that being said, I do think that, I think that the under is going to hit. So give me 28-24 Ohio State as of right now.
There
I'm
you
a
have
jinx.
it.
I'm putting that out there.
By the way, I'm 4 games under 500 with my spread picks this year, so I apologize in advance. Roman, Chase Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes, Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. Great as always, guys. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.